Hey, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I am making a 5x7 card. I do actually have 3 cards to share with you, and I made 2 of them today. These came together pretty quickly. I'm using the Spellbinders Colorful Blossoms August 2024 large die of the month. And this background stamp is new to me. This is the Grateful, Thankful, Blessed. I believe it's a 6x6, almost a 6x6 background stamp by Photoplay. And this is the first time using it. This is such a pretty background stamp. I pulled out my Misty and a piece of 120-pound thick cardstock. It's by Accent. I'm also using the color Dove by Concord and Ninth for the inking. This will give it, once it dries back, this will just give it a nice background look to it. So I'm really pressing that down with those background stamps. You really kind of have to press them down pretty well to get good coverage. If you're looking for just not perfect coverage, you can just press it once and it turns out really pretty either way. So I'm pressing that with my pressing tool, and I did tape the paper in place just because I needed to get that top part and it wanted to move around. So I'm going to use a baby wipe, clean that off, and set that aside. So what I decided to do is I have 2 pieces that are 5x7. I taped with using some ATG tape. I taped the top of them together. So it's 2 layers thick of the 120-pound cardstock. And here's a quick look of the Spellbinders die set. This is such a pretty die set. And I don't always make 5x7 cards. I mentioned this in another video. I like to make them every now and then. And this die set is a perfect die set to do 5x7 cards with. You can do smaller cards, and I have used it for smaller cards as well, but I really like how big they are, and a 5x7 really looks great with them. So again, this is 2 pieces thick of the thick 120-pound cardstock. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and because it's such thick cardstock and it's 2 pieces, it's only going to cut the top piece because I plan on inlaying the cardstock back into it. So I'm just going to remove those dies. I'll remove the pieces that it cut from them, and I do need to cut out an extra leaf, and that's all I'm cutting directly from the paper. But I'm going to give you an up-close look. Look how pretty that leaf is. And I'm going to save that with that background text on it. I'm going to save all these inlay pieces for another project. I'll just throw it into the sleeve with the die set. So I've pulled out those, and I just wanted to show you up close that it embosses the second piece, which is perfect because now I can go in with my glue to see exactly where I need to glue all those finicky pieces down. And I'm not worried about the glue squishing out too much. I do put a piece of copy paper over it, my brayer, to press those pieces down, but it's just so I didn't get my fingers in the glue. But it doesn't matter if the glue did seep out a little because we're going to be gluing over those anyways. And I think it looks pretty just as it is with the white showing. So I'm making my card base. These are a little bit bigger than a 5x7. They're 7.5 by 5.5. It's an 11 size sheet of paper that I'm scoring in half. So the finished card base is 5.5 by 7.5. So it gives my card a little bit of a black border, which I think is really pretty. And I'm making 2 cards. I'm making a similar card since I have all the product out. I figured I'd make 2 of them, which I'm doing off screen, but that's why you see me make a second card base right there, is so I can just prepare for that. So really pretty. I'm going to go ahead and glue down my panel piece with some Beacon Fabri-Tac. I did put a piece of paper down since it's black on black. I thought it'd be a little bit easier to see. So once I get that into place, I'm going to place some blocks on it and let that sit for a few minutes. It shows quickly, but I just edited that out. I did let it sit, give it a little time to dry. So I'm using, this is Dragon Fruit by Concord in 9th. I love that color. Now I'm questioning, it may be Watermelon. And then this is Harbor for the leaves. And I'm using some Barely Art Glue in my fine tip bottle. And then again, I'm just putting all these pieces right back into that, inlaying them directly into the cardstock. This is Honeysuckle, and then for the top of that I use Nectar for the top piece. I'm just adding my glue and then pressing that on a Post-it note to get any extra glue so it doesn't seep out everywhere. And again, everything I am setting some paperweights on it, giving them a chance to dry. This is a piece of powder from Concord in 9th. And then I cut out 2 pieces, another piece of the Nectar, which I do end up using. I did cut out another piece of the, I believe it's the powder, or Harbor rather, to see for what I wanted in my flower center, but I thought that the Nectar looked really pretty. And then I have a few of these flowers left over from another project, and then I also cut out some of the Buttercup cardstock, and I thought that looked really pretty on there. So I'm going to use 3 of the Buttercup. The second card that I made off screen is a similar card to this. I just didn't stamp a background. I left it as a white background, which looks really pretty. And I used a different sentiment, and then I used a little bit different jewels. I do on both cards use black clay hearts just because it ties in so well with the sentiment. The black of the card base and the black behind the sentiment. But inside the flower center, I use different jewels. So this Thanks, and the other one that I use is Hugs. They are about 4 pieces thick, the cardstock behind them. So they have a nice hefty weight to them. I'm going to use my jewel picker and pick up those gems. For these, I'm using some clear dewdrops. So pretty. Here's an up-close look at the card, and I love the background on it. I'll probably go in and put a white piece of cardstock in it. And here's a look at the 3 cards that we're making. So here's this one. This is the next one. I put pearls in the center, and I'll give you another close-up look of those. And let's go ahead and make another card. This card base is using the Spellbinders Leafy embossing die. I love this die. And I'm using some thinner cardstock. So this is 65-pound weight Nina Astro Brights, and it's cut to 4.5 by 9. Let me think about this. Maybe you can see it on screen, by 10. The card base ends up being 4.5 by 5.5. So it must have been cut to 11. I'm going to spritz that with a little bit of water, and I'm putting the entire card base in the folder. And as you can see, it just gives it such a pretty look on the front, the back, and the inside of the card. And by using the water, it didn't crack. So here I pulled out this Wild Berry. This is the first time working with this color. I love it. Off camera, I did put dimensionals behind the whole thing, and I'm going to stack those flowers. I just offset them the slightest bit. I don't like them too offset, but I wanted to give it some dimension. And then I'm using powder for the leaves. So I'll glue that down in the center, which then gives my petals a little bit of a lift. And I use some smaller dimensionals on the leaves, some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. I use those on the leaves because I just want the tiniest bit of lift to them. I pull out some dewdrops for the center of my flower here in just a minute, and I should have given you an up close look. They have just a light pink to them. They do, of course, pick up colors behind them because they are translucent, but they turn out really pretty. Here I'm just showing you how thick this sentiment is. I love a good thick sentiment. I do that with my mini albums as well. Whenever I'm putting something in the corner, I always double or triple it with cardstock. So there's the dewdrops. I don't know if you can see that they have a little bit of a pink tint to them, but they look really pretty on top of the flower. And then I scattered a few on the cards themselves. So I'll give you a close-up look of all three of the cards again. This one here, I do finish off on camera the inside. I used a Lawn Fawn stamp set that's new to me, along with the matching, well, it's not the exact matching, but I used dragon fruit ink on the inside. And as you can see, the front of the card says hugs, and the inside of the card says sending thoughts. So I thought this card could go for a number of different things. So I hope you've enjoyed today's process. If you have not subscribed, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel. Please consider giving me a thumbs up and leaving me a comment. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'm happy to answer them for you. Have a great day.